You've got this incredible army inside you, a powerful, invisible force that's protecting you every single second of the day. But what happens when that army decides to turn on its own country? This is the story of autoimmune warfare. I mean, just listen to that description. And you know what? It's not an exaggeration. This internal army is literally everywhere in your body. Your tissues, your bones, all your fluids. It's this constant, heavily armed patrol, and it has one single job: find the enemy and destroy it. Now, most of the time, that's fantastic news for us, right? It keeps us alive. But it brings up a truly terrifying question, and it's really the heart of what we're talking about today. What happens if this relentless, super powerful force makes a mistake and decides that you are the enemy? And that's exactly what autoimmunity is. It's a betrayal. It's a civil war. I mean, just imagine fighter jets bombing their own highways, or snipers targeting their own medics. That's your body turning its most powerful weapons inward and attacking the very thing it's supposed to protect. So how on earth does something like this even happen? How does a perfectly loyal army turn into a traitor? Well, it all comes down to one colossal case of mistaken identity. To really get this, we have to talk about proteins. Think of them like the Legos of your body, the fundamental building blocks. You've got about 100,000 different kinds, but here's the crucial part to remember. Every single one has a very specific, unique shape that tells it what its job is. And that shape is everything. Because your immune system is basically a shape detector. It's constantly patrolling, checking the shapes of everything it meets. If it sees a friendly shape, one of yours, it just moves on. But if it spots a foreign enemy shape, like from a virus, it immediately tags it for destruction. Autoimmunity is what happens when it gets that fundamental friend or foe recognition wrong. Now, because a mistake like this is so unbelievably dangerous, your body has an incredibly ruthless training system designed to prevent it. You can think of it as a kind of murder university for your immune cells. And the training here is beyond strict. So young immune cells go to this academy, and they're shown all the friendly protein shapes that make up you. The number one rule is brutal. If a cell reacts to any of your own friendly proteins, even a tiny bit, it's executed on the spot. But the system isn't perfect, and through nothing more than sheer dumb luck, a few of these dangerous, self-reactive cells manage to graduate. They're like little ticking time bombs now patrolling your body. Okay, so you've got a traitor cell on the loose, a sleeper agent, but even that's not enough to start a war. There's one final ingredient you need. You need the trigger. You need the spark. And this is what's so wild. The trigger is almost always something totally ordinary. We're talking about things like the common cold, the flu, even just a tiny little cut. It's anything that puts your whole immune system on high alert and sets the stage for disaster. And here is where a bit of bad luck creates the perfect storm. See, some invaders, like certain bacteria and viruses, have evolved this really clever camouflage. Their protein shapes look almost identical to your own friendly shapes. It's a way for them to hide, to try and fly under the radar of your immune system. So this is it. This is the moment of catastrophe. While your body is fighting off one of these camouflaged invaders, an immune officer accidentally shows that look-alike enemy shape to one of those fugitive cells that escaped the university. That fugitive cell is now activated. It thinks your body is under attack by itself, so it does what it was trained to do. It starts cloning itself thousands and thousands of times and launches an all-out war against your own healthy tissue. So the civil war has begun, but where does the army strike? Well, depending on the battlefield that's chosen, the consequences are incredibly different and absolutely devastating. Just look at these different battlegrounds. If the army targets the insulation around your nerves, you get multiple sclerosis. If it decides to kill the insulin-making cells in your pancreas, that's type 1 diabetes. If the attack is on your joints, that's rheumatoid arthritis, where it literally dissolves cartilage and bone. And then there's something like lupus, which is like a body-wide blitzkrieg, attacking almost every organ system at once. But what's really interesting is that even with all these different targets, there is one common symptom that links almost all of them: just crushing fatigue. And when you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Your body thinks it's in an epic war for survival, so the immune system is still sending out those universal signals that tell your body, shut down, conserve all energy, we need everything for the fight. This whole thing sounds like a terrible, dangerous flaw in our biology, doesn't it? Which brings us to the final and maybe most fascinating part of this story. This isn't just a flaw. It's an ancient weapon, misfiring in the modern world. It makes you ask a really deep evolutionary question. Why hasn't natural selection just gotten rid of these dangerous genes?
Why would we still be carrying around something that puts us at risk for these awful diseases?
Well, the answer is a classic evolutionary trade-off. It turns out that having an extra aggressive hair-trigger immune system wasn't always a flaw. In fact, for most of human history, it was a massive survival advantage. And this is incredible. This isn't just a theory. Researchers found direct evidence. The same gene variations that increase the risk for a disease like Crohn's today appear to be the very same ones that may have helped our ancestors survive deadly pandemics, like the Black Death. A trait that once saved lives has now become a liability. So you see, our immune system isn't really broken. It was perfectly designed for a brutal world full of constant threats. But in our modern world, with all its hygiene and medicine, that ancient soldier just doesn't have enough enemies to fight anymore. So it's bored, and it's angry.
Which leaves us with a final, really powerful question to think about. We're all carrying the genetic weapons that helped our ancestors survive an incredibly dangerous world. But in a new world, where we've vanquished so many of those external monsters, has our own body become its own worst enemy?